Hello, my name is Justin Adams, and welcome to Jay's Days. Or should I say, welcome back to my 25 Days of Christmas movies. This is the time where I handpick certain holiday movies, and I simply talk about them, critique them, and I say whether or not it will be worth your time. Today I'm going to be doing the Santa Claus Trilogy. Before this, I did the first one. Now I'm moving on with its sequel, The Santa Claus 2. The story is the continuing adventures of Scott Calvin, aka Santa Claus, as he discovers that his son Charlie is now on the naughty list. Not only that, but that he also has to get married or else the desantification process will begin, meaning that he has to resign his position as Santa Claus. So Scott, aka Santa, has to travel back to the real world to take care of business. But, of course, the Elves can't know where Scott/Santa is going, so with the help of Bernard, played by David Krumholtz again, and Curtis, played by Spencer Breslin, they create a toy Santa version of him, making the creepiest fucking thing I've ever seen in the history of the world. If you don't believe me, Google the Santa Claus 2 Toy Santa and you'll see what I mean. It's fucking terrifying. This movie is not as good as the first one. But hey, what sequel is? Besides Rocky 2. Nothing can beat Rocky 2. Except for Creed. But the reason why I don't like this one as much as the first one is because they treat Santa as if he's fucking Jesus. For someone who can't use a lot of his magic, uses a fuckload of it. While I think the original is a better movie, I think the sequel is a lot more of a fun time. We see the North Pole more and we actually get to see Scott be Santa instead of becoming Santa. Also, I really like the story. I like the aspect of Charlie acting out. He's trying to get the attention of his dad while trying to be a bad kid. I also really like the desantification stuff. Unlike the first one, we see Scott become Santa. This one, we see Scott become Scott again. I thought that was a nice little touch. Another cool thing I really like about this movie is that everyone came back. Literally everyone, especially Charlie. Usually they just vacation it, and that means that they just go on with the movie and they just recast the kids, thinking that no one else will notice. But this one, they brought back Charlie, and I thought that was really cool, and how he's older now, I thought that was just a really nice touch. Now, the problems lie within the lame CGI, the tacky dialogue, and the music, which is so obnoxious. Whenever someone does or says anything in the North Pole, there's this weird sound effect or obnoxious tone or score that's going on in the background, and it's so forced, and they're just like jamming Christmas down your throat. See, we're doing Jingle Bells! Another thing that really annoys me about the entire trilogy are the elves. The one thing I love about Elf and Fred Claus are that they use adults as elves, and then they just use like CGI magic to have them shortened down. It brings more of a life to them. Unlike the Santa Claus, they use kids. Now, I think the kids are cute and everything. I think that that's fine. But the problem is, they look like kids. They don't look like elves. Sure, they put pointy ears on them, but they just look like kids. And most of the kids don't know how to act. I'm not one to bash a kid's acting, but wow, some of the kids in this movie just cannot act. But still, I really like the story, and Tim Allen is still as charming as ever as Scott/Santa. The makeup still holds up a lot more than the shitty CGI, and some of the jokes are actually pretty funny. Let me just say this. In the first two movies, Tim Allen's performance is almost always good as Scott/Santa. He's never really a problem. He's always looking good as Santa, looking good as Scott, the makeup always looks good, he always acts fine, the jokes land, he's never really a problem in these movies. But him as the toy Santa is especially weird and creepy. He is way too comfortable playing this role as the villain. He's given more life to this character than any character he's ever played in his career, and it's weird. It's funny, sure, but it's very, very creepy. But still, I like the story. You're gonna hear me say that a lot, because I do. I like the story. He only has a few days before Christmas Eve to fix his relationship with his son, find a wife, and to make everything better again. I think that we are in, like, with the sound of that, we are in the works of a really good sequel. But instead we get little doses of interesting ideas. They never really go full. They're done so weirdly and half-assed. The problems could be that it took 5 writers, a handful of production delays, and it's a victim of constant reworking. And you can especially see that once the toy Santa starts to become evil. My main beef with both of these sequels are that they think that they need a villain in order to kick the story up a notch. They don't take the first film into consideration. It could have just been a movie about Scott trying to find a wife and try to fix a relationship with his son, but no! We need a toy Santa, talking reindeers, and a really annoying girl named Lucy to make me want to rip off my ears and just burn them. I really hate the girl who plays Lucy. It's just her voice. It's just her voice. She's one of the kid actors who can't act. She's not one of the elves, but she just can't act. And she's in 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. But other than that, the movie still has some interesting stuff to it. For example, this movie has 2 really good scenes. The first scene is the scene with all of these characters interacting with each other, like the Tooth Fairy, Mother Nature, Father of Time, the Easter Bunny. Enjoyable and interesting scene to see all of these characters I looked up to as a kid to be all in one room. And my second favorite scene is the blind date with Molly Shannon. It's hilarious. If you haven't seen the movie, just the Molly Shannon scene is the price of admission right here. I think that's the reason to see this movie. Tim Allen's reaction to her just getting up and singing, it's all pretty hilarious. But the movie weighs itself down with stupid jokes, dumb plot points, and a villain that is just so pointless. They could have spent all the time they spent with the Toy Santa with Scott and Charlie. The Toy Santa subplot does not take the story anywhere. It puts us on hold and has us wait until we get to the stories that we actually want. Like A, Scott trying to talk to Charlie, or B, Scott trying to get with Charlie's principal, Principal Newman. Now let's talk about Principal Newman for a second. She's played by Elizabeth Mitchell, and I think that she's fine. I think all the scenes between her and Scott once they start falling in love feel genuine and real. The chemistry between her and Alan is also really great. I think that they play well off each other. But the problem is that these two, we don't know why they should be together. The movie just kind of shoehorns the fact that, oh, these two are going to be in love. They don't give us some kind of hints. They're just like, at first they don't like each other, and then next thing you know, Tim Allen is trying to get with her. He's like in front of her house, and he asks her if he wants noodles and pie. That's literally what he asks her. Oh, Tim Allen, I'll give you dating advice, buddy. Now, sure, I think they look good with each other, but if we don't get that spark, then the audience is just left confused. But luckily, they look good with each other, and they talk good with each other, so it kind of levels it out. And plus, the Toy Santa part is worse than that. Overall, the movie takes some weird turns. But, like I said, Tim Allen is still charming as Scott/Santa, and the story is pretty good for its own right. Being more colorful and fun for kids, but a bit of a repetitive bore for adults. It's not nearly as good as the first one, but certainly better than its sequel. Okay guys, that's what I think. What do you guys think about the Santa Claus 2? Do you guys like it, or do you guys hate it because it has a guy using magic in order to win the affection of a girl? There are other ways to win girls' hearts, you animal! Alright guys, that's what I think. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, at I'mJust_420. And remember to stay tuned for my review for the last movie of the trilogy, the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause. Hopefully I won't be dead by that point. I'm very tired.